Hi guys, Mustang here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so AGL TURLES EZA is coming up on JP. I did do a video yesterday talking about his EZA details, so check that out if you haven't seen it. They definitely did our boy justice. His EZA is looking very, very good. So as always, I am making a team building guide for his EZA. The category weakness is low class warrior. It's a standard 30 stage EZA. So as you fight through the various stages of TURLES, obviously the different abilities become unavailable, like stunning, sealing, etc. And then when you get to stage 13, you get the 80% damage reduction against that. Ignore this. This is for characters that don't have a super or extreme type. So basically what this means is like unawakened SSRs and SRs. So you're probably not going to be using them anyway, right? But then it's super STR and then all extreme. So basically, all extreme units are going to get 80% or do 80% less damage against TURLES, and then super STR. So basically, you want to be focusing on a full super team of everything other than STR. Obviously, you could still bring defensive units, like for example, even though he's not on the category, right? You could bring like Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, and he would still be good at tanking, but you just wouldn't be able to do any damage. So that's pretty straightforward, just the standard 30 stages. There's no page for it up on the wiki. Shout out to Dokkan Info. This site is a lot more reliable most of the time, so if you haven't checked it out, it's dokkaninfo.com. Very, very useful, but the wiki's still very good for cataloging all the categories and stuff, so we'll go over there to go through the actual team build. Okay, so low class warrior is obviously not a particularly large category, so there are not a huge amount of options. However, there are some very, very good free-to-play options. So you should be able to get through this EZA relatively easily, regardless of how stacked your box is. So as always with my team building guides, I go through my top picks and honourable mentions. If we get to the end and there's any units that I haven't mentioned that you think I should have, or any units that I didn't really talk about, everything they can do that makes them super good for this event, then obviously feel free to let me know down below in the comments section. And if you find the video helpful at all, the guide, then do drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. But let's go ahead and jump in for low class warriors. So obviously the starting point is the actual summonable, like full category leader for low class warriors is AGL Bardock. 4 key, HP 130, attack and defense 170. Him having the 4 key is kind of useful for the fact there are a couple of good LRs on the team. AGL Bardock hasn't aged the best. He gets memed about a lot in the community, but he's still relatively decent. He raises defense on super attack. Obviously on this team, he's going to be getting a pretty good attack buff because he gets an attack boost per low class warrior on the team up to 50. So if you're making a full low class warrior team, then obviously he's getting that. He's not going to be getting the secondary part of his passive. And then his transformation into a Super Saiyan is activated from the 4th turn. So in an EZA, you can fairly easily get to the 4th turn in the later stages, especially if you are using a weaker version of the team, which, as we discussed at the beginning, there's a lot of free-to-play options, right? So some of them provide some really good utility, but maybe aren't doing the most damage. So you might be able to see turn 4 on a fairly regular basis. Then when he transforms, he's obviously going to be hitting a little bit harder. His attack's effective against all types because he's attacking an extreme class enemy. And then he has a 18% chance to crit and 18% chance to dodge for the first 5 turns. So 18% is not a lot, but it's a little extra something, I guess, right? So, and he is effective against all types because TURLES is extreme. So even though he's not the best unit anymore, he is obviously going to be the best choice for the leader for the team. Next up, we have the side banner unit Raditz, who released at the same time as him. It was Saiyan Day 2 years ago. He has a low-class warrior lead of 3 key, HP, attack and defense 120. Now, obviously, he's extreme, so as we discussed, once you get to stage 13 and onwards, he's not really going to be doing any damage, but he's kind of only here as an honourable mention for the leader skill if you don't have the AGL Bardock. So when you're facing one enemy, he gets an extra attack and defense 100% on top of his starting 100% at the start of the turn. His overall stats are okay. His main use is in like Super Battle Road because he gets damage reduction against multiple enemies, but he can still be okay here defensively. You just don't want him taking too many hits like later on, but he's got type advantage, so he should be okay if you have to use him as a leader. Next up, we have the physical Raditz. So I thought I'd mention him Obviously, if you did summon for him on JP for some reason, maybe you did like I did and just did a YOLO multi just to see what would happen, and then I got a Goku Black Rift. So I do actually have Turles on my very minimal JP account, which is cool because it means once I easy A my 55% Turles, I can actually show him off on a 200% team. But that is the only reason you would use him, right? Is because he's Pure Saiyan's lead, and then Space Traveling Warriors. A lot of the low class warriors that we're going to talk about coming up are on Space Traveling Warriors, so he's a 200% lead for them. The only problem, of course, is that as an extreme physical unit, he's not going to be doing any damage. You are fighting one enemy, so after supering, like, his stats are reasonably good. And of course, once the enemy is at 50% or less HP, he gets a much bigger attack buff. So he could be okay, but the problem is, again, even if he gets that attack buff, he's getting 80% damage reduction when you get to stage 13 and onwards. So he's really only an honourable mention as the leader, but I would probably just run Bardock, just because Bardock will actually be able to deal damage to Turles, whereas Raditz will not. But hey, if you want to run a 200% team, I mean, you could literally run this guy and then a bunch of the rest of the units that we're going to talk about that get his 200% leader skill, and then them getting such a massive buff kind of makes up for the fact that he's not really doing anything, and then you can just kind of run him as like a third slot floating unit. So then as another sort of, I guess not last resort, but like an honourable mention, like free to play, this Goku could be used as the leader. 3 key, HP, attack and defense, 59%. Not exactly crazy, but if you're pairing that with a friend Bardock or friend Raditz, then you're probably going to be okay. And then, of course, if you are running a normal leader skill like Bardock, then this guy is going to be super good on the team. The version Z LR Goku is just really, really good. He's also a support unit. He gets extra key and attack when attacking extreme class enemies, which Turles is. So he's just going to be really, really good in this event. Even if you are running like the full leader skill, whatever, you probably want to put this guy on the team. Not just because he's a solid unit overall, but he's also a support. So he just massively helps out the team. He has an active skill that you can't use until turn 5, so you're probably not going to see that very often. It does damage, so if you do ever get to the 5th turn, using this is probably going to be like the finisher for the stage. So definitely bring this guy along if you have him. You should have him. Everyone should have done the version Z panel missions. I recommend if you're newer to the game, you get these done straight away because you end up getting this LR and is really, really good. So in terms of units on the team, obviously you can't use him for the leader skill really, but the EZA LR Bardock is going to be super, super good on this team, especially if you are running the Raditz because he has a 200% leader skill. But yeah, very, very strong unit. Raises defense on both of his super attacks. Obviously his 12 key, he greatly raises defense. He seals on the 18 key, which you can do up until, I think it's like stage 10 or possibly even 15. So that can be quite useful as well. And then post EZA, he's just got very, very solid stats. When you're facing against one enemy, he gets extra attack. When performing, he gets extra key, so it makes it a lot easier to do his 18 key super. So he's going to be very solid. He doesn't get all of his buffs because you're not fighting a Frieza or anything like that, but on the 200% team especially, he's going to be able to put out some pretty big numbers, and he's going to link reasonably well with a lot of the other units that we can consider bringing. So once you've picked your leader, this guy and like the version Z Goku, I think, are like go-to units straight away because they are going to be very, very effective and very powerful. So then we have a guy that works super well with physical LR Bardock, which is the LR Team Bardock. So they're a Team Bardock leader skill. So we're going to go over the free-to-play Team Bardock units. One strategy you could use is to just use the Team Bardock and then the full free-to-play Bardock team. The only downside is the actual LR Team Bardock is pretty weak nowadays. Because when you look at their passive, they only have a support passive. So they get this 60% attack and defense as well, but that's all they get. So they're not very good. They raise attack on their 12 key. They do Mega Colossal and raise Superclass Allies attack by 30% on their 18 key. So they don't have any kind of defense raising or anything. But they share almost the exact same link set with this guy. And he is on Team Bardock. So they're giving 60% support to him as well. So they can be really, really good as a support unit for this team. Or to go the leader skill route and use the Team Bardock team if you're free to play. Because obviously you can make this full team free to play with the Team Bardock LR. And I believe on JP you can get the LR Team Bardock up to 90% at the moment. So definitely worth bringing along, especially to support LR Bardock. But then you have the free-to-play Bardock team. So Bardock himself, because he's super STR, he's going to be getting the damage reduction, and he's got type disadvantage anyway. So he's not really the ideal pick. He is who you would sub out for the LR Bardock, the physical one, if you have him already. He does get damage reduction, of 50% if you're running the full Team Bardock team. The less Team Bardock members you have, the less damage reduction you get. So really, he's not ideal for the stage at all. So out of all of the free-to-play team members, he's probably the least useful one in this EZA. But then Tora's going to be really good, even if you're not bringing the rest of the team, because he raises attack and defense on super, so he can hold his own reasonably well in the third slot. He's got decent attack and defense. He gives all allies key 3 attack and defense 30%. He gives Team Bardock allies chance of performing a crit 10%. And then he recovers HP whenever HP is 85% or less if you have 3 or more low-class warriors on the team, which of course you will. So this could be really good in an EZA since you can't use items. So having a support unit with decent defense that can also heal you, very nice. Then we have Farsha. Farsha's really good as well. She greatly raises defense on super. She has a built-in chance to dodge, which is really good. She creates rainbow orbs when there's an ally whose name includes Bardock, not Team Bardock. So if you're bringing the LR or you're using the AGL one as the leader, then obviously that's really useful. All allies key 3 and Team Bardock allies attack and defense 30% within the same turn after evading an attack. So you just put her in slot 1. And then as long as she dodges one of the attacks, then she's giving everyone a support buff. So she's really good as well. Next up we have Sugesh. Sugesh is pretty decent. He raises defense on super as well. Decent stats. Gets a little buff when there's another Team Bardock ally in the same turn. So if you are using more of the allies from that team, then he's obviously worth bringing. Gets a crit when the enemy is stunned, which you're not going to see very much. Same with his stun. And then launches an additional attack when the enemy is in attack down or defense down. I think defense down you can still do for most of the event. So again, he can be very useful. And then we have Borgos. Greatly raises attack and defense on super. The stun chance is obviously kind of irrelevant, but when facing one enemy, he has really solid stats because he gets 100% attack and defense on top of his 150 at the start of the turn. So very, very good. And then he has a high chance to crit if there is a Bardock ally on the same turn. So you can basically run the full free-to-play Bardock team. The only weak link unit is going to be this Bardock because he's not going to do any damage. And even with his damage reduction, he might get hit pretty hard. And then, of course, the LR is not the best unit. But you don't have to use them, right? You can farm up the full free-to-play team. Maybe you do have AGL Bardock, and then you can run him as the leader and just run the full free-to-play team with, like, LR Bardock instead of the STR free-to-play one. And then you're going to be looking really good with the free-to-play Bardock team. So they all are pretty solid options. Then next up we have this Goku. I've never particularly liked the art for this Goku, but he got an EZA during the download celebration, and he is actually pretty solid. Does supreme damage, raises attack and defense 30% for 3 turns. Solid start of turn stats, raises attack and defense by up to 120, the less HP remaining, the greater the boost. So as you get further through the event and you're losing HP, he's going to become more powerful. He also builds up a little bit at the start of each turn, and if you drop to 30% or less HP, he fully heals you. So he's definitely a very solid option if you have a little bit of a weaker team and you are finding the later stages a little bit harder, then this Goku can basically be a free heal. Next up we have the EZA Giant Ape Youth Goku. These units just got their EZAs on JP. He's an honourable mention more so than a top pick, but the EZAs for the Great Apes are pretty good. Raises attack and defense on super. After supering, he's got pretty solid stats. And then he has a medium chance to additional when you're under 80% HP, so you can get another stack as well. And then, of course, he can change into a Great Ape, and so you just get like a couple of turns of doing some free damage, basically. So it can be pretty useful. And then we have the Int Kid Goku as another honourable mention. They can link up pretty well together. The good thing about him is once you are at 59% or less HP, he gets guaranteed crits for the turn, and you're able to use his active skill, which is a guaranteed crit. So again, in an EZA where you can't heal, if you're starting to lose a bit of health in the first couple of turns, this Goku could then potentially finish off the Turles with his active skill. So definitely very, very good. So we've gone through all of the honorable mentions here. Like the free-to-play Int Raditz is extreme, so there's no point running him. Basically, none of the extreme units are really worth running outside of like the physical or tech Raditz just for their leader skill. And then you've got like tech grade 8 Bardock. He doesn't have an easy A, so he's quite outdated now, but he does at least have type advantage if you really are hurting for some other options. The AGL grade 8 Bardock is okay as well with his easy A, not particularly great. The AGL Tora is also a support unit, but they don't have their easy A's yet, so he's a little bit outdated as well. So as you can see, we kind of gone over pretty much everyone, right? Because low class warriors, not exactly the most stacked team. So let me know what you guys think down below. Like I said at the start, if there's any units you think I missed out or should have talked more about, let me know down below in the comment section and we can continue the discussion down there. And let me know what your team build is going to look like for Turles' Easy A. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.